P3, and that is going to be a difficult time to beat. Coming down to turns 11 and 12 he comes. And that is a nice smooth run here for Mr. Bowler. Just avoid the curb on the apex, use as much of it as you can on the exit, and across the start-finish line he will come. It's going to be a 119.5 there for Matthew Bowler. And seems to me like he wasn't quite able to match his current fastest time, but there's improvements happening in the top 10. Adam Briggs going to P5, and Chris Coxhead also improving to P12, gaining 2 places over Brian Borg and Thomas Freeman. There's an improvement from Wayne Burke. He goes to 5th and puts Kurt Stenberg back into 8th, along with Adam Briggs and Brody Kostecki, and all that implies. Kostecki himself has improved to P3, goes to a 118.8. Excellent job there. Sean McNamara also improving in the 951 car, has gone to P17. And James Scott setting another fastest time for himself. He maintains 2nd on the grid for race 1, but he is shadowing Corey Shepherd as Shepherd enters the pits. And there's going to be no opportunity here, or very little opportunity for any drivers to improve on their times here. We've only got 1 minute and 20 remaining in the session, as that's a little bit too far beyond track limits for Sean McNamara.
Yes, indeed. Apologies there, folks, for a small slip up on the stream. Got called and tried to mute my microphone, and of course the start-stop streaming button is directly above my mic mute toggle, and I've hit. So whilst Reese, you're doing that fantastic commentary there, we lost you for a moment in the middle of all that, but I'm told it's back up and running, and I did notice it is back up and running, so very sorry everyone that's happened. But we are going to be good. I just need to be very careful and not get worried about other things happening apparently around me tonight. So user error on that one, and letting myself down there with a bit of a technological fumble. So 30 seconds remaining. McNamara either going to go again, or going to put that one. Yep, going to try and go again here. No time to go back to the pits, so put the foot down. Does the 951. The last car it's going to get across the line. So I'm going to figure out who that might be. Won't. No, that's ordering things by people on the timing tower, which is unfortunate there. Checkered flag is going to fly, and it looks like it's going to be the number 26 machine that will get across in time. Question is, 26 is in the hands of Bo Cubis. No, apologies. The 26 is, that was coming past one of the sector markers, so no. Bo will finish up this session here. It's over there. So in fact, the last car that's ahead of Bo, circulating still, is Corey Shepherd in the 718. Is Shepherd on a flying lap here? The answer is yes. The question is, can he improve on an 18.733 and have himself 2 very strong times at the top of the timing tower here to wrap things up in qualifying?
Well, to bring it into the hairpin, very nice and calmly, it looks like it will be a good lap here from Corey Shepherd, unless he decides to back off here towards the end. Unclear if this is actually him backing off, or he's going at full pelt towards the pits. As the session will now come to a close, we'll see if Shepherd peels into the pits or commits. Nope, he is going into the lane. That's an in-lap for Corey Shepherd, so just a couple more opportunities here for drivers to improve on times. And looks like McNamara has abandoned that as well. So looks like everyone is in the lane. And what we should highlight is we have been told, this is clearing up a little issue that we encountered earlier with Brody Kostecki's car number. He should be the 999, but of course he has entered the race server with the number 44. And of course race control do not look kindly on drivers showing up with an incorrect number. So Brody Kostecki is going to be starting from the pits in race 1. And it's going to be a tough fight through the field for the Boost Mobile Racing machine. Either way, a few seconds to go, and we'll flick on into the race session. And here are the results there from Group 2, our top 10 at least, which means we can go through to the grid for race 1 tonight. it is going to be Corey Shepherd who starts on pole position alongside James Scott. Of course, a pit lane start for Brody Kostecki. He won't take up the second row alongside Brady Myers, Wayne Burke and Adam Briggs on the third row there. Starting 7th and 8th is going to be Rayan Leonage and Kurt Stenberg. Leonage with a great performance, and Stenny as well. Fastest time in Group 1. Excellent result for him. Brenton Hobson and Robert Gibbs, 9th and 10th. And then it's Jordan Ross and Thomas Freeman who round out the top 12.
That they do. Kenneth Ladder there in the 269. Vicinity Sim Racing going to start out of P number 13, or 13th grid slot, I should say. Chris Coxhead alongside there in the 14th position. Brian Borg and Dylan Pereira sharing row number 8 tonight. ERT taking out row number 9 together there with Sebastian Flock alongside Matt Bowler. It's going to be Sean McNamara and Aaron Borg there to round out your top 20 tonight here for race number 1. Andrew Dyson and Brett Loxton in 21st and 22nd, with Thomas Hinz, the Super Split 2 winner, starting out of P23 here, with P24 going to Darren Lobb in the 99.
The 08 of Blake Delaney is going to line up alongside Riley Bilson on the 13th row, and then we got Bo Cubis and Brad Newman sharing row 14. Bo Albert and Justin Wallace will round out our top 30 cars here. Cameron Veacock and Jamie Dyke share row 16, and then it's Damian Johnston and Cameron Jones who start out of 33rd and 34th. And we got Ben Morris and Paul Young, 35th and 36th. Our final few cars here. Zach Ski in the 333 starts alongside Chasty in the 427. Tyler Blackburn and Tim Mulford share the 39th and 40th slots, with David Kirby then rounding out our field of 41 cars. Simon Black, Nick Parker and Mike Korolev are in race control. And if there's a big enough incident out on track, if someone has to request a tow, then we will see the Logitech G safety car driven by Nick Parker appear on the circuit. This is certainly chances for that, because Winton, very tight circuit, and if the start of Split 2 was anything to go by, the drivers should be very careful here coming into turns 1 and 2 tonight. Got to be careful of drivers messing up the run off the line as well. These cars notoriously difficult to start well. So let's see if there's any dramas in the midfield, or even any dramas at the front, with Corey Shepherd and James Scott there sharing the first row of the grid. A little bit of a crown in the road here to start off the lap at Winton. And they got to make sure that they have the line locker engaged properly and that they let out the clutch very nicely on the way off the green flag. 20 seconds to go now. And we see that third grid spot empty, as Brody Kostecki has been instructed to start from the pit lane. So Brady Myers has the opportunity to move right to the left-hand side of the track off the line if he so desires. Either way, the timer will hit 0 momentarily, and we'll get Split 1 action started here in the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS. Round 13 at Winton Motor Raceway. The revs rise. And we're away. That is a great start there from both of our drivers on the front row, but the second phase for Corey Shepherd is a lot better. The pole sitter will lead into turn 1 as there's a big crush behind. The car of Wayne Burke actually getting a much better start than Brady Myers and moves up into third for Synergy. It's on for the lead. Scott's going for the inside on Shepherd, and they make contact. Corey Shepherd goes off the circuit. He's going to have to be careful with how he rejoins here as the field comes through.
Oh, goodness, it's busy here at Winton. So far, most of it. That's Rehan Lineage going off ahead in the dirt in the 79, trying to stick to the inside, though, for turn 5 and hang on, with Jordan Ross trying to make places as there's more shuffling up and down the order here on lap number 1 of 30 here for Split 2. Thomas Freeman's just been sent out 6 miles wide. No! Multiple cars around at turn number 7. I can barely keep up with who we've got off the road here. I see one ERT car, one Simrig's DPR car. Make that 2
Simrig's DPR cars.
Yep. Andrew Dyson, Darren Lobb, Sebastian Flock, all names falling to the bottom of the timing tower here as lap 1 continues to unfold. And, well, unfortunate there, to say the least, for several of the drivers here at the back of the field as we come down through turns 9, 10, and, well, your leaders, they're already heading around 11 and 12. It's James Scott now well clear of the rest of the group here. And look at that there, Wayne Burke up into P2 as a result of the skirmishing here on lap 1. So far, looks to be a little bit more nice. As you can see here further on back, Brody Kostecki already up 10 spots from, 11 spots from P41, having served that at that pit start now into P30 here at the end of lap number 1.
Right, well, that incident coming into turn 7, for your benefit, Dan, was triggered by a bit of tap from behind for Sebastian Flock. And it looked like there was some side-by-side running between Brett Loxton and Darren Lobb that triggered that. So looking very interesting here on lap 1 as we go to our first virtual racing school replay. Flock getting on the brakes nice and early, but getting a tap from behind there, and that sent everyone scrambling around him.
Let's see here, on board with Flock at the time here on lap number 1. So we've got Brett Loxton, you see Darren Lobb in behind through turns 5 and 6, and then, it's just like they weren't ready for someone to have to check up early on the inside to make sure they didn't run into the back of someone. You can see, several cars off there. Jamie Dyke, Bo Albert there from the rear of a shot here with Flock's car. Then Loxton and Lobb as the two drivers that came pushing on in there, it seems. And unfortunately, several drivers getting tripped up as a result. As we head back to the live pictures here. And have we had a safety car whilst this is all happening? It's just where the back of the pack is. It's all busy. No, everyone's racing. Apologies. They're just all very close together still.
They are indeed. Well, it's not close up the front. James Scott leads by 1.5 seconds over Wayne Burke as we get some very close racing here at the back of the pack. Flock having to recover here. Bo Albert was also sent off the track there, position just ahead, and making sure that everything is in order. We ride on board meanwhile with the goodness me, this is such a hefty fight. It's Thomas Hinds, who's up into 19th spot after starting 23rd. He's got Riley Bilson just behind him, and then a long train of cars that includes Newman, Veacock, Jones, Wallace, Delaney, Johnstone Ski, and Brody Kostecki, who's gained another 2 positions up into 28th. That was a very poor exit there from Riley Bilson, giving a little bit of breathing room there to Thomas Hinds. Let's see what Brad Newman can do to try and find his way past.
Just the reason I jumped to Hinds was he actually got past Bilson early on in the lap, so through turns 2 and 3 as up the inside comes Brad Newman here. And apologies, that's the looking out the back of Newman's car there. I wanted to grab out the back of Bilson's car. There we go. You can see here Newman's still in behind for the time being, but I'd say not too long before that changes at the rate these two are going to go at it here. So turn number 12, they're going to start lap number 4 of this race.
Well, lots of fighting going on in the midfield. It's another position gained for Brody Kostecki, meanwhile, up into 26th as we ride on board here with Damien Johnstone. He's just been passed there by Zach Ski, and up the inside comes Bo Cubis. Big surprise there, and Cubis messes that up and goes for a big old slide in turn 3. More positions lost there for Mr. Cubis, and has to deal with all of these drivers trying to make their way through. Andrew Dyson with them as well. Dyson, one of the drivers who started towards the front early on, and thanks to that lap 1 incident has had to try and recover. He sees Cubis coming on the inside and holds on, and that will give him the inside for this next hairpin. How aggressive will Cubis be around the outside? Picks up the throttle nice and early and will get the move done potentially. Get on the throttle a bit. No, have a look at this then. The Jinx Shifters car of Brett Loxton will make it 3 wide, and Dyson gets sent off almost. Cubis has to get on the throttle, get off the throttle and onto the brakes nice and early, as there goes Loxton going deep in turn 10. He's going to have to defend from Cubis here coming into turn 11. Take it care, everybody. These guys are fighting for 33rd position meanwhile. Don't forget that. There is racing going on all throughout this field. There's 41 cars here, and every position is up for grabs.
Sure is. That was a very busy moment there for these guys all involved in that one there. You just mentioned Brody Kostecki. I was going to try and take a chance to pick up Kostecki, and indeed, good time to do so. He's just got past Justin Wallace there at turn number 3. So this car continuing to carve his way forward. Loxton and Cubis getting together here on the exit of turn 3 there as well. So just when I want to take a moment to try and focus on something, anything here, apparently attention being drawn back to where it already was. As look at this, Loxton on the bumper to the point of just continuously nudging Cubis through turn 5. Deep, but apparently not quite deep enough there. Cubis will hang on for the inside of turn 8, which opens the door for Tim Mulford there in the 85 potentially to come through, but no, he will not be able to get on through here. So right behind for 26 for a little bit longer. There you go, 6 cars all on the line. And indeed, everything to play for. No one willing to take or lose an inch, rather take a mile. At the same time, they'll certainly be a chance to lose it as Cameron Vigok's falling down the order. What's happened to the number?
Penalty.
87.
Penalty. He has gotten a penalty for contact on lap 1.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah, so evidently VCOC was deemed at fault for something there. He might have been involved in the crush coming into turn 7. I'm just reviewing his lap 1 here. Yeah, actually big contact with...
Oh, speaking of contact!
Dyke, oh God, oh dear. That is Jamie Dyke, I think, who was just hit off the racetrack once again. Oh my Lord. Something has gone on very wrong here for the Fishy Motorsports 080, and that was a big crush on the way into turn 3.
It sure was indeed. Let's wind back and pick up the Hershey Race replay of it here on board with the 080. Coming up the inside of Tim Mulford in the 85. And then see here, nudge, nudge. Oh, actually, we can't really see it, apologies. But yeah, Jamie Dyke there. Contact with Tim Mulford there on the outside. He was trying to hold the line through a turn 3. Let's see if we can just jump back a little bit further and try and pick a different camera angle here on the other side. Yep, so there's Mulford. So they come together. The question is, who's moved more off the line? We'll have to wait and see what Race Control think of it all. Big benefactors, including Moel, but they're getting 2 for 1. And Darren Lobb sliding on through there as well in the DPR cars. As a result,
I would say that Mulford might be deemed at fault for that, because Jamie Dyke was more or less holding his line, and Mulford moved left into him on the way into the braking zone. So we'll see what Race Control says about that one. But I would expect that there's going to be quite a few penalties handed out here. Let's turn our attention back towards the front of the field for what feels like the first time since lap 1 here. Kurt Stenberg holding on to 8th spot where he started. He's got plenty of drivers that have made their way up around him. And Stenberg has the recovering Corey Shepherd behind him. Remember, Shepherd was our pole setter. There was contact with James Scott into turn 3. That put Shepherd out of the running order. So we'll see what Corey can do here to try and make up some spots. Remember, there's no mandatory pit stop in this race. The drivers are just going to be sprinting their way to the finish. Down the front stretch they come. And the straights aren't quite long enough here for the slipstream to really be a factor. So you've got to focus on traction out of the corners. That's pretty much the only way to try and get alongside a rival here at Winton. And they're all using the curb massively on the way out of turn 2. I can't help but think it's only a matter of time before someone goes a bit too far there and sends their car airborne.
Yes, haven't seen it just yet, so keeping things under control for now, but certainly we saw it once in Split 2 earlier on. We were talking about it, of course, in the main game. The support races on Friday, apologies. Where we saw a couple of incidents there in turn 2. So it's a question of what will come next. Some of those drivers as we continue to watch this group of cars. He lined up behind Robbie Gibbs there in P5. Back through here to Shepherd. Just also got Rehan Lineage hanging on there. So 5th through 10th. All in a neat little row as they make their way out of turn number 10 here on lap number 8 of 30. And, well, once again, Ross will be looking here at this group here. Back at Brody Kostecki, because he made his way past Brad Newman early on in the lap, and he's already sizing up Riley Bilson here in the 055. So the charge forward continues, and well, he's one of the faster cars out on the track. I'll be best by your front runners and other people like Corey Shepherd, who have got themselves trying to get a move on here. As Bilson's going to contest that one into turn 1, and back into the top 20 for Kostecki here. He's just 8 laps complete so far, so he's on charge to possibly be looking at somewhere in the top 10, I suggest here for race 1.
Indeed, it's not going to happen for Bo Albert, unfortunately. He has just gotten a penalty from Race Control for contact back on lap 3. So the 06 touring through the pit lane at the moment, and will be dropping down the order ever further now. We'll keep an eye on Kostecki as he continues to make his way forward. And there's only been a third of this race completed. The drivers are still on reasonably fresh tyres, but they'll be working them incredibly hard. And Kostecki, with a bit of clear air, might be able to afford to look after his tyres a little bit and make sure that he still has something to fight with towards the end. If he continues vaulting up the field like he is from this pit lane start, we might see him go to P15 at least before the conclusion of this race. And there's plenty of battling going on just ahead of him. Thomas Hinz and Aaron Borg just ahead, fighting over 18th and 19th. Pretty fantastic set of cars here. Always good to see the people pull out all the stops to bring up some very nice liveries for this V8SCOPS event. Having said that, Aaron Borg running a completely white car there at the moment in a privateer entry, so definitely won't be able to miss him out there. Definitely jumps out versus all the other cars. But Aaron has had a pretty consistent race so far, hasn't he? Up 2 places, has managed to avoid most of the drama that happened on lap 1, and he's doing very well to keep Thomas Hinz behind.
Yeah, he is, but it's not much of a gap to work with here through turns 7 and 8, so keep your eyes out for Hinz, maybe looking for the inside of 9. No, he'll stay in line for the time being. It's just a question of whether the drive off the ball goes to the inside there. See him, but no dice just yet, so they'll continue as they are down to turn number 10. So nice and gentle now is the 2 on Hinz. Just noticed it for a moment there to turn 11, but too far back to make anything workable. A nice drive off of the turn 10, comparatively speaking. Keeps the distance through 12 as they complete back number 10 in this race. And how about we do jump back up to the front of the field here, Reese, and jump on board, or jump up to Brady Myers, because you can see here, whilst the gap is starting to slowly stretch between your first and second place drivers of James Scott and Wayne Burke, Myers here keeping Burke honest for that second place, and maybe just trying to start sizing up the 89 for that position here as the laps tick by.
Yeah, comparing lap times, it looks like Myers has the quickest lap overall of these two, but running about a tenth slower than Burke on the last lap, still keeping himself in that fight though, and there's a lot of fighting going on just behind them as well. You can see there the gap. Myers did gain on Burke the last couple of laps, but has lost a bit of time on lap 10. We'll see how it looks here on lap 11 as they come into the final couple corners here at Winton, and very difficult set of corners to try and gain time on. Myers fighting the rear end a little bit. I think the tyres are beginning to protest as they come across the line, and that's going to be 1 minute 20.3 for both of those drivers. But Myers did take a little bit of time out of Burke on that lap. Time's running out for him to try and make an advance forward.
That is true there. See here, be nice and gentle on the way out of the turns to make sure that rear end doesn't break away from him here. So really about patience game, making sure to the car underneath him here for this race. Like I said, being the out-and-out sprint that it is, you can see these drivers having to manage the tyres for the full 30 laps. Whereas of course in race 2, they'll have that flexibility if they want to split the straight, how they want to split the straight, I should say, because they're short to 40 lap race and therefore longer, but the pit stop changes the game entirely when it comes down to how things work. You see there, short shifting on the way through the hairpins, but indeed still getting a wobble on the way out there, trying to get the power down in second gear. Good spot there. Again, another little bit of opposite lock he has to put into the car there, turning out of turn 10. Now, I spot something
5th place. Yes.
Things are getting
Robert
busy
Gibbs.
on back.
Yeah, Robert Gibbs and Brenton Hobson there fighting over 5th, and it looks like Hobbo's finally completed that manoeuvre. It took him half a lap to do it. He dived up the inside at the 3rd of the hairpins and ran side by side with Gibbs on the way through the rest of the lap, but he has managed to work his way up into a top 5 spot now, and he could potentially try and hold Gibbs up so that his teammate Jordan Ross can make his way through. We've still got Kurt Stenberg in this fight as well, holding on to 8th and keeping Corey Shepherd behind him And Rayan Lionage, who had, of course, his small incident early on, is trying to recover back into a more solid top 10 position. Now that Hobson's made his way past Gibbs, it looks like he's starting to jet away from him. These guys had a big gap back to Adam Briggs, who's currently running in 4th place. So I think now that Hobson's got some clear air, he can try and drive away from Gibbs, who has got his rear mirrors full of cars from 4 separate teams.
He sure does. Here's what it looks like out the back of the number 2 Evolution Racing team entry. In fact, it means you've got yourself here. You've got ERT leading the Synergy Sim Racing car, leading the Trans-Tasman car. Then we've got Shepherd, who's actually, since Bathurst, departed Premier Racing team and currently running as a privateer here in V8SCOPS currently. And then Phoenix Racing team, next to our teams there to make it, oh yes, 5 different teams. Count privateer as 1. Now 5 cars. They started on lap number 14 of this race. Now just seeing there also, Thomas Freeman's not too far off the back of Ken Latter, who was. I saw him there, but he has dropped back a little further. You can see these guys trying to catch up to that group ahead as Latter's wide though through turn 3 here. Does Freeman go for the option? No, he'll try and settle down and keep the rhythm up here at this point. Freeman, another one of the cars to have another driver to have departed Premier Racing team of recent with Corey Shepherd. Hasn't made moves up the field so far on this one, but certainly eyes on the prize up ahead, I would dare suggest.
Yeah, definitely you would. Freeman currently occupies the position he started in, 12th, and he's looking to make an advancement. Of course, he's got his Twitch URL emblazoned on the side of that machine, so if you can catch a glimpse of it here as he goes by, twitch.tv/TomFree015 it seems, you can check out his perspective as he tries to chase down the Synergy Sim Racing car of Kenneth Latter. That is very deep into the penultimate corner, but Freeman managed to hook up the apex in both turns very nicely. He is a quick driver, is Freeman, and has certainly shown some flashes of brilliance as his former teammate Corey Shepherd has. But Kenneth Latter has come quite a way in the last season or two. First time we saw him, he was racing for simrigs.com DPR, and he was a regular competitor around the midfield in Split 2. Now we're seeing him in Split 1 and fighting for top 10 positions, and it's amazing to see, you know, the fact that this is what I love about this championship is we've set it up such that there's a long history in this series. There's drivers who have competed from the outset, there's drivers who have been here for a few seasons, and you can chart the progress of a lot of these drivers. So it's really awesome to see how those stories intertwine as the years go on. And speaking of veterans, Chris Coxhead there in the Jinx Shifters Commodore is just behind this pack now, and he has gained quite a bit thanks to all of that battling.
From this angle, that looks a little wide there from Latter through turn number 10 there. Let's just see up ahead. That was Corey Shepherd showing the nose down into turn number 11, but not able to get by Kurt Stenberg just yet as they come across the line to complete the first half of this race. So that's how quickly things are going by here in with this group of cars. Keeping it nice and neat in the front part of the field for now. Mission is probably the first one to make a move from this group. We've seen, pardon me. We'll get through up into P5. Everyone else in the train still running as they have been for the past couple of laps though, so keeping things somewhat neat and tidy. Speaking of drivers on the move still, Rory Kostecki up from P20 to P16 since we last checked in on him recent. Got 2 more drivers in the form of Sean McNamara and Matt Bower right here, and I would suspect ready for the taking if Kostecki's continuing to march forwards.
Yeah, Kostecki has been... Oh, yeah, there's what I was just about to say. Some controlled aggression from Brody. And good to see that the drivers were giving him room there, but he's got the outside coming into turn 10. Will he be able to make his way past the 9.5 car of McNamara? No, a little bit of a tap there. McNamara loses it a little on the exit, and now Kostecki will be on the outside again, coming into turn 11. Oh, okay, hard on the brakes, and just swings around the front of the 951 machine, and that is another position gained up into 15th now. He's got Matthew Bowler just up ahead of him, and Dylan Pereira has been trying his best to hold on to the back of this pack as well. You can see though that little bit of battling has it resulted in a bit more of a gap ahead to Matthew Bowler. So we'll see what Kostecki can do from here. We're past halfway in this race. We've got, when the leaders cross the line next, 13 laps to go. And remains to be seen just how much further forward Kostecki can elevate himself.
Yes, indeed. So you can see here, all the way through turn 5 and then into turn 6. Jump up on the curb there. Pulled up looking very strong under brakes. Picking up serious amounts of time there by the looks of things. At turn 7, turn 8 obviously not so much because there's less opportunity, but nice and tidy there. Looks to have far more composure in his car at the moment compared to those around him. He's going to actually go and send it up the inside here at turn 10, just as we switch to the TV side, trackside cams. And let's see here, nose ahead of Matthew Bowler as they head on down to, where's the camera? There it is, turn 11. And that looks to be another job done once again here in the back part of the lap for Kostecki here, up into position number 14 and 2.5 seconds to gain. So go and find place past Chris Coxhead.
Indeed. Well, I did predict that Kostecki would be in at least P15 by the end of this one, and it looks like he might be looking at a top 10 at this stage. This is looking interesting, though, coming across the start-finish straight. 9.5 Mustang of Ben Morris trying to find his way past Damien Johnstone, but Johnstone slips ahead. And whoa, contact behind. James Chastaneuf coming together with Andrew Dyson. Oh, okay. They both managed to keep it going, and then they got Brett Loxton and Bo Cubis coming in, and Chasty gets a good smack in the right front as Cubis makes his way through. I don't know how race control's going to look at that one. Looked like the two cars just went into each other coming through turn 2. Well, Chastaneuf is going to be licking his wounds for a little bit of time to come. He is still up 6 spots from where he started, though, so things are looking all right for him as things stand. Oh, that's looking a bit cramped, isn't it? Dyson coming up on Damien Johnstone, and up the inside into the third of our hairpins. Johnstone tries to get the racing line, but Dyson will shift his way through, and now have Tyler Blackburn for some company as well as they make their way into turn 10. What a train of cars this is. How many is that? Is that 7, 8 cars?
I'd say it starts here with Blackburn in P26 and goes all the way back to Sebastian Flock in position number 33. So by that I'd say 8 cars.
Yeah, righto. Well, either way, there's still plenty to be decided here as there's 12 laps to go, and a driver that we've barely given any airtime to since the start, James Scott, is continuing to lead and extending that lead by 2.5 seconds is the margin back to Wayne Burke in second. And Brady Myers has not been able to make any more of an impression on Burkey there for the second spot on the road. Our top 4 not in a huge fight with each other, but really the battling is for 5th on back throughout the rest of this field, and pretty much every car behind is within a second of other cars. And we see that James Scott is still running pretty consistent times there. He can afford to back off a little bit, but he probably doesn't want to. It's like Senna at Monaco, really. You know, a track so tight, and a track where you really got to be on it, like Winton. If you back off for even a second, you can fall off your rhythm. That increases your chance of making a mistake.
Indeed, all about maintaining the rhythm that you can get and build and maintain here in this will be the name of the game. As we watch these guys make their way around once again, and just trying to see if we pick up where the action is on track here at the moment. Back here to this group, still running P5 on back. You can still see that still Winton helps him, but he hasn't really broken away. He's almost got a second to Robbie Gibbs there in the number 2 ERT machine, but for the most part, still being kept honest there, as I just see Delaney and Zach Spear change spots, and Delaney's car looking a little just for where they're on the left side of the vehicle. Now, the question is, has that been related? He's also apparently 3 seconds off his repairs. That might have something come together and chance there, perhaps.
Well, I'm going back to check. It actually looks like Delaney just went off the track on his own coming out of turn 3 earlier in the lap. So evidently that scratch on the left-hand side of the car is from an earlier incident, potentially in the opening laps.
All right then. Well, tune back into the group up front, because so these guys are still lined up nose to tail. No one's still yet to make any desperate moves at this point in the race. Let's see here, winding way through turns 3 and 4. But it looks like on this particular lap, Jordan Ross was around 3/4 tenths behind Robbie Gibbs, and suddenly dropped back to 7, nearly 8 tenths of a second. And it really looks like now 5th and 6th have started to break away from this little group that we had going here, as we're inside 10 laps to go as well. It should be noted. Let's see here. Still biding the time, perhaps trying to tease something out. Guess we'll have to speculate and wonder. You can see in behind them, there is another group of cars worth keeping eyes on. That group starting with Kenneth Latta in P11, all the way back to the cars behind. And that was a good time to switch to them here, because look at that there. Tom Freeman again gets a nose in at turn 10. Doesn't quite make it stick though, Reese.
Yeah, and you look a little bit further back there, you can see Brody Kostecki is right on the back of this fight now, and he could try and work his way through these 3 cars. Kostecki's next target will be Loxton, and then with the amount that Latta and Freeman are battling like they are, that could give another chance for Kostecki to potentially get into 11th spot. Here we go then, on board with the Boost Mobile car, and reasonably good exit from turn 2. Slight advantage to Loxton as up the inside Brody Kostecki goes. Very deep there. Loxton is going to have the inside for turn 4, but Kostecki just fires it in, and that's going to give him the inside for turn 5, and actually he won't even need to defend that, just moves ahead and keeps Loxton behind. That was a very brave move there from Kostecki, but obviously he has got a lot of real-life racing experience at this track to fall back on.
He does indeed, and it's always good to see we get a chance to have a couple of real-life drivers with us from time to time, and showing us that they have got what it takes to translate the real experience to the sim. Is just in front of him. It's on again between Freeman and Latta, as Freeman this time gets a nose alongside. The question is, can he hold on to that spot? Not just it. Nope. Oh, it's the wrong camera. Switch. And that's the wrong side of the car. So there is. Yep.
There we go.
Very close between these two still. And what that does is it just gives a free kick back to Kostecki, of course, because he had a bit of a gap that he had to close down. And in fact, Freeman slow. That a slow down on the way off the final turn. He drops back in behind Kostecki. That, or decides to let Kostecki have the run at Ken Latta next, and try and make up spots on the way through with the spoils.
I don't think that was a slowdown for Freeman, because he didn't go beyond track limits on that lap. I was thinking for a second there might have been potential for him to fall back behind Kostecki and try to get a free kick through on Latta, but that's not going to happen now, because Kostecki, with a magnificent move up the inside of turn 5, gets into 11th place. What a fight back it's been for Brody Kostecki after starting from the pit lane, and now Latta and Freeman are back together.
Well, unfortunately there, it says he started 3rd, but we know that's where his grid spot was. He didn't take that grid spot, and regrettably it doesn't tell us exactly where he spat out. We know he spat him out in 41st place. Such is the way it works there. So, unfortunately, we can't really sort of talk about it in that sense. But you see here, Freeman now going to have another crack at Latta here up the inside at the final turn. They're side by side, rubbing panels there. And I think finally, no, they've crisscrossed. as I'm just trying to figure out what the best angle is to try and pick up this fight here between these two. Nose ahead again for Ken Ladder, but the inside for turn 1. Surely this is Freeman's to take. No, Ladder's going to outbrake him, apologies, and get that spot back for the time being. 7 to go as Loxton wants in on this. Pardon me, Chris Cox said apologies. Wanted in on it, and he just gets run across the road a bit there. Bit of contact. Freeman deep through 4. But Cox said not able to capitalise. Apparently English was hard today.
There's a lot of alliteration involved when you're talking about some of the names here. That is going to calm things down slightly for the time being. That little bit of fighting, though, you see how many cars are behind these guys. That's the battle headed up by Bowler and McNamara that is starting to come up on these guys. And you can already see with Latta then having to deal with Freeman, Kostecki has streaked away in 11th, and he is on board with New Evolution Racing Team signing Matthew Bowler, and he'll be hoping that there's some more battling here in this trio, because then they'll be able to make it a proper 7-car battle for 12th spot.
Let's have a look at this here. Look at that there. That's what fighting does for you there on lap 23 compared to Ken Ladder. Pulls a cool 2 seconds on that car ahead, 269, and as a result, well, has been dragged along to the rear of the fight. Does have a little bit left to try and pick up there, as that was a little lock-up from Ladder. Turn number 1, Freeman's there. Can he get past?
Up the inside into turn 3, and they just avoid contact. Ladder with a better run around the outside, and Freeman slides on the way in, sends Ladder off the circuit.
There we go. It happens, but it's messy. Ladder's going to slot in behind Dylan Pereira and just ahead of Aaron Borg. As you see there, the background of the shot, the question is, do we get a redress order from race control at some point? And what does Freeman have left to fight with? Because they've been going at it very aggressively all race long. As you see here, Chris Cox said it's his turn to try and make a move. It would seem as Cox is going to have a little wobble there on the exit of turn number 9. And drop a couple car lengths back. Wibbly wobbly, spinny winny go the rear tyres, and that is not going to result in a position change for the series veteran in the 208. See the headlight flash on there from Thomas Hinds right at the back of the pack, and looks like there's going to be a change for position here with Riley Bilson and Cameron Jones side by side on the way into the penultimate corner, and Jones is going to try and hold the outside, and that's not going to happen. Chris Cross maybe. Whoa, hello Brad Newman. Jesus, Mary, Joseph, Abraham and Isaac. That was incredible there. And that's given a free kick to Justin Wallace to try and get up the inside of Bilson as well. Well, how about that? What became a 2-car scrap immediately explodes into a 4-car scrap as Newman aggressive on the defense into turn 3. Bilson wants the inside of Wallace as well, just at the back of shot, and he's not going to get it this time by at least, and just barely able to keep up with what's happening here between this group of cars. So, Newman the big winner of it all. Wallace gets a consolidation prize, and Cameron Jones does technically lose a spot, just it's not to the car that was initially attacking, which was Bilson, of course, through turns 11 and 12 as we watch this group wind their way through turns 7, 8 and 9 here. They've got 5 laps of racing left in this one, I believe. They are a fair ways behind the lead. The question is, have they crossed the line? No, I believe they're going race lead across the line now. So indeed, they have just got a little bit over 5 laps, or 4 laps to go, sorry, as they bring up through turns 9 and 10. And the group spaces out a little bit there off that particular corner race. Wallace and Bilson not close enough to really keep the pressure on Jones and Newman. And you can see they're still pretty much nose to tail here as they come off of turn 12. And indeed, it's on again. This time it's Newman's turn to be on the defense of turn 1.
Let's see what Cameron Jones can do. Oh, almost gets squeezed there. Has to filter in behind Newman again, but the exit of turn 2 is with him. Can he dive up the inside of turn 3? A little bit of bumping and barging on the way through, and this could give Justin Wallace another free kick as well, as Jones gets ahead of Newman into turn 4, and Newman goes wide over the curb. There goes Wallace, there goes Bilson, and Brad Newman back to 23rd again. Oh dear, What a fight this is between these drivers. You'd almost think they were racing for sheep stations on the final lap, but we've still got 4 to go. Around the outside, Riley Bilson tries to get up. Justin Wallace here. Can he get that position back? Oh, it's going to be difficult. Wallace has the inside for the hairpin, and it looks like Newman will see the door open and go up the inside of Bilson as well. Cameron Jones is just like, okay, boys, you can do that. I'm just going to skedaddle away. I don't want to see any more of this.
He doesn't. There's Newman!
Ah.
That's a bit deep on the brakes from the Rob's Falcon Esports car. Number 10 is going to slot back in behind Bilson once more as they come down to 11 and 12 here. 3 laps to go when they hit the line here. And watch you, this angle, you can see quite a bit of damage. Hello.
Oh, contact for top 5. Jordan Ross and Robert Gibbs
Oh,
have
my
come
word,
together.
indeed.
Oh dear, Jordan Ross had just made the move on Robert Gibbs after Gibbsy unfortunately messed up the exit of turn 2, and that's created a ton of drama there in the battle for the top 5. Gibbs tried to get back up the inside of Ross, and unfortunately, it actually looks like Kurt Stenberg and Corey Shepherd got lucky there. They were able to go up the inside. We'll see it on the Virtual Racing School replay. So watch this from Robert Gibbs. Exit of turn 2. Just gets on the AstroTurf and the curb a bit, and Ross goes, okay, fine, I'll take the outside, but then Gibbs goes a bit too hard into turn 3, and they both go off. Stenny and Shepherd were able to get through. Unfortunately, they cleaned up Rayan Leonage.
Just try and get an outboard shot of it here, and you can see, unfortunately, there indeed, and especially so for Leonage, just said there, the innocent victim of it all. But
and Kostecki flicked through, didn't he? He's
he
up into
indeed.
8th as a result of that.
Did indeed. Kostecki up to P number 8 as a result of that action there. There's 2 to go for him and those here in the front of the field. And, well, it's certainly been on up and down the field. In fact, it's still on. Well, how's about that for on? Look at there, the gap between P1 and P2.
Yeah.
Hello, Wayne Burke. Where have you been hiding this pace?
Yeah, it looks like James Scott's pace has fallen off a bit in the last 5 or so laps. Wayne Burke has been consistently running a 10th or 2 faster than Scott over the last couple of laps here, and so it is on for the lead coming into the final couple of laps. I also noticed that there's some problems for Kenneth Latter. He is dropping down the order. There's been a big issue there for Latter. Oh, it is a big issue. He's down to 25th now. Something's gone very wrong for Kenneth. He manages to rejoin the racetrack, but evidently there was some big dramas there for the 269.
Let's see if we can pick up what that might have been. Then we'll quickly go one more Virtual Racing School replay here. And oh, you're not wrong. I've just caught the back end of it here. We'll try and pick it up, and we'll go back a little bit more for you folks there. So here we go. Into turn number 3 we go. We've got Aaron Borg looking for a piece of the pie there. That brings Thomas Hinz into the equation, and 3 wide into turn 4 was never really going to go. And oh, that's particularly cruel there. That it was definitely ambitious to say the least, but it turns out to be a bit of netco contact that really seals a deal and makes for a bit of victory for the more Latter rejoins. The race carries on.
Final lap, meanwhile, as we go back to live pictures, and the gap between James Scott and Wayne Burke has just been falling and falling. You know, if Burke isn't going to have a serious attempt at this pass for the lead, I think they might be going for a formation finish here at Synergy Sim Racing potentially. But either way, it's been a great performance from James Scott and a great performance from Wayne Burke as well. I would say even greater because, of course, James Scott had that little contact with Corey Shepherd on lap 1, which kind of put a stain on this race for him. Final lunge there in the last couple corners for the 89, but the inside is covered by James Scott. Oh, it's going to be a side-by-side run to the line, and it's going to be Synergy crossing the line side-by-side to end the first race here at Winton. James Scott from Wayne Burke by a 10th of a second. Looks like Brady Myers is going to finish in 3rd there, and an excellent performance from Brady to consistently hold on throughout that race. The checkered flag flying for all the drivers behind. There's still going to be fights going on here on the final lap. Ross just holds off Freeman, and fighting continues further back. Looks like Riley Bilson is just going to hold off the advances of Newman and Delaney at the final hurdle. And from there, oh, there's drama. Ben Morris almost getting up the inside of Damien Johnstone here, and Johnstone is spun out of the final corner.
Well, there you have it. Bit of chaos and calamity there as they come across the line for the places just at the back half of the 20s and the just outside the top 30 as a result. And that will be the end of that one there for everyone, it seems, and indeed just a handful of drivers who need to make their way across the line. Last two cars being Cameron Veacock and Tim Mulford there to bring it home to wrap things up for the first race here in the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS 2 Easy Finance Winton Super Sprint. And it has been a dramatic one, to say the least here, Reese, as we'll now be able to turn our attention to said... Nope, that's... Yep, that has indeed.
Yes.
Switch to the race results there. I thought for a second I was going to get stuck on qualifying. Apologies there. So, here they are indeed, and we were able to just finally check in and see it closing down, but a tenth of a second between the Synergy Sim Racing duo of James Scott and Wayne Burke to round out race number 1. Brady Myers, a solid P3, at just about 3.7 seconds back there. Adam Briggs brings it home there in P4, a little bit isolated in the scheme of the field, I guess you could say it there, with Brenton Hobbs just behind in P5. As I said, Kurt Stenberg and Corey Shepard escape the late chaos there to come home 6th and 7th. Brody Kostecki up from the pit lane start to P8 in 30 laps. I mean, just the pace and the ability to pull that off certainly is one to be inspired by. Rayhan Lineage, unfortunately, tripped up there at the end of the race there. He will still finish in P9, just ahead of Robbie Gibbs there to round out the top 10.
Well, 11th place for Jordan Ross and 12th for Thomas Freeman. Chris Coxhead makes up one spot to finish in 13th. Matthew Bowler up to 14th place. Sean McNamara will hold off Dylan Pereira in the end there to get things done there. Thomas Hins making up a few spots and continuing his strong run tonight. Winner of Split 2 and 17th for Race 1. Split 1, Aaron Borg, Cameron Jones and Justin Wallace will round out the top 20.
21st there in race 1, going to go to the 0.55 of Riley Bilson there. Just ahead of Brad Newman in that number 10. That group certainly let out the firecrackers to the end of that one there. They finished ahead of Blake Delaney there in 23rd place in the 08 machine. Zach Ski ends up there tonight in 24th, ahead of Tyler Blackburn in 25th. Kenneth Latta in P26 as Andrew Dyson just behind there in P27. Brett Loxton in P28, and then the start of that battle pack we just caught the end of there through the final couple of turns with Ben Morris and Sebastian Flock sneaking into the top 30 there, Reese.
James Chastaner finishing 50 seconds behind in 31st will hold off Brian Borg. Bo Cubis comes home in 33rd after a very active and exciting race there for the number 26. David Kirby, Darren Lobb, Jamie Dyke, Damien Johnstone, Cameron Veacock, all to 38th. Tim Mulford got a penalty from race control for contact earlier on in the race, and Bo Albert ended up pulling into the pits and retiring the car after receiving his penalty from race control. Our first of two retirements. Same for Paul Young, unfortunately. Only made it just around lap 1 before he decided to make it back to the pits. So, that's going to conclude race 1 of Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS round 13 tonight. We're going to take a quick breather once again on SimSpeed TV. We've still got race 2 coming up, 40 laps with a compulsory pit stop. And of course, the grid set by the second fastest times from qualifying. We'll be back shortly.
next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. V8S coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRacing roller coaster? If so, V8S one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
Tired of searching online for answers? Would you like to get setups, analysis and tutorials from some of the best sim racers in the world like Ralph Alla, Mitchell de Jong, Martin Krunker, Josh Rogers and many more? If so, virtualracingschool.com is the answer you've been looking for. V8S data packs provide hot laps from our professional coaches for you to analyse and replicate. They provide tutorials that walk you through the fastest laps and what the pros did to achieve the best times. And they provide the setups you need to ensure your car is competitive in both oval and road racing. If you're ready to get faster and reach more podiums sooner than later, just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a free account today.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
You're watching SimSpeed TV. It's round 13 of the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS. Reese Gardner and Dan Yeaman with you tonight. And my goodness, what a night of racing it has been so far here at Winton Motor Raceway. There's plenty of very tight action that's been going on throughout this night. And we are going into the final race of the night now. Split 1, Race 2. And the environment has changed a little bit, Dan. Not only do we have a slightly more mixed up grid to look at with the second fastest lap times from qualifying making up the grid for this one, but the track is in a completely different state now. We had some blazing sunlight and very high track temperatures in race 1. Now the sun is gone. It is completely overcast out there on the circuit, and we have a 23-degree track for race 2. This is going to be a fun one.
Yes, we do indeed. Thank you for the introduction there again, Reese. And thank you to everyone here with us for this evening's second race of the night. And, well, just a real quick thing. In case you missed the rules around the format, if you could, Reese, please run us back through race 2's format and also that important bit about qualifying and how that's set up to deal with the grid here in this second one.
Yes, so it's a 40-lap race here, and there's going to be a compulsory pit stop for at least 2 tyres. We expect drivers to take 4 tyres in the pit stop. There's no fuel restriction, so you can do a bit of refueling in the pit stop if you want, or you can just fill the car up and take it all the way to the end on a single tank. And of course, qualifying session earlier split into 2 groups, and the times from that session set the grid for both races. The fastest lap times set the grid for race 1, and then the second fastest times are what make up the grid here for race 2. So that's going to result in some slight mix-ups there to start off this second race, and we also have tyre strategy to factor into this as well. Winton is a track that is notoriously tough on tyres. They are being worked the whole way around here with very short, sharp blasts between corners and plenty of long corners as well to work with. So there's going to be some good potential for strategizing, undercutting as well. And we'll see what happens here, because I think potentially Brody Kostecki might be facing up against another pit lane start here. No, actually, he has entered with the correct car number this time around, so it remains to be seen whether or not Kostecki will be starting from the pits in this race as well. But either way, he's going to have some competitive times on hand, considering his performance in race 1 after starting from the pits and coming home to finish in 8th place. James Scott is certainly going to be looking at making it 2 wins tonight, but Corey Shepherd's still one of the men to beat here.
He sure is indeed, as we're currently in the last couple minutes of practice, and in fact, more to the point actually, we are pretty much in the dying stages of practice here tonight. So let's have a quick look at them out here on the circuit, and yeah, you're certainly saying conditions are quite different. How's that for different? You can very much tell straight away we've got ourselves a fair bit more cloud cover and a little bit less sunlight to work with in this second race to come here. That actually rather looks quite ominous and foreboding. Thankfully, there isn't any rain that is allowed to be possessed within those clouds here, at least virtually. Not yet anyways.
Indeed, rain still has yet to come to iRacing, though we have been seeing little tidbits of rain being in development over at the iRacing offices in Massachusetts, and who knows, by this time next year we might be dealing with sudden showers in a couple of sessions in V8SCOPS, which would certainly make things more interesting. Not that they need to be any more interesting, because this championship has been one of the most entertaining, one of the most chaotic in the AusNZ SimSphere. Well, with just 25 seconds remaining in this short little warm-up session before the race, the drivers will have been hoping that they've gotten their final preparations in order. They have a little bit more grip to work with out on the racetrack, thanks to the colder track temperatures and no UV light hitting the track surface. But tyres will still be a factor here at Winton Motor Raceway. Very nice looking car there for Brian Borg. Meanwhile, another livery change up there in the Premier Racing Team entry. Racecross Simulations emblazoned on the sides, and I always like a nice black and blue colour scheme. Either way, we'll see if Kenneth Latter as well can have a better run than he did in race 1. So, race session time, and we can go through the grid. James Scott had the quickest second fastest lap time in qualifying, so he's going to start on pole position now alongside Corey Shepherd, with Brody Kostecki starting 3rd again alongside Brady Myers of Trans-Tasman Racing. Ryan Leonage and Wayne Burke will share the 3rd row of the grid. Brenton Hobson starts in 7th alongside his Synergy teammate Adam Briggs. And Robert Gibbs will line up 9th alongside Jordan Ross. Kurt Stenberg will start in 11th. Another good qualifying performance for Stenny there as part of Group 1 earlier in the evening. And he'll line up alongside Thomas Freeman.
P13 tonight for this second race. Going to go to Chris Coxhead there on the 208. Matt Bowler alongside him in P number 14. Sebastian Flock just behind. Those two boys cannot be separated from ERT when it comes to their qualifying times in this one. Brian Borg will start out of P16 alongside Flock. Pereira and McNamara on row number 9 here for race 2 with Brett Loxton and Kenneth Latter rounding out your top 20. Darren Lobb and Justin Wallace on row number 11 with Aaron Borg and Riley Bilson bringing it here in 23rd and 24th place.
Starting out at 25th is going to be the number 41 of Andrew Dyson alongside Cameron Veacock. Bo Cubis and Split 2 winner Thomas Hinz share the 14th row of the grid, and then it's Ben Morris and Cameron Jones, 29th and 30th. Brad Newman and Damian Johnstone on row 16. Then it's Paul Young and Blake Delaney alongside each other with Jamie Dyke and Bo Albert making up 35th and 36th. The triple three of Zach Ski is going to line up 37th alongside Tyler Blackburn, James Chastanerf and Tim Mulford, along with David Kirby, rounding out our 41-car field here. And, of course, Nick Parker on standby in the Logitech G safety car with Simon Black and Mike Korolev handling race control duties. So, front row is the same two drivers, but they've swapped around. This time, Scott has the inside line for turn 1. And remember, race 1, he and Corey Shepherd came together coming into turn 3. So, it's there's a little bit of history here between these drivers now. We'll see if this start is a little bit cleaner between them. Let's find out as there are 40 seconds to go on the grid timer. And this time we do see Brody Kostecki just peeking out from behind Corey Shepherd there. Kostecki had to start from the pits in race 1 due to registering with the incorrect car number. That's all been fixed now, and he is in his 999 Boost Mobile Racing Commodore. And we'll see how well he does here, starting from the front of the grid this time. It was an amazing fight back for Kostecki. We'll see what he can do to challenge for the win here at Winton tonight. And, of course, Ryan Lineage in P5 there. Didn't quite finish where he wanted to in race 1, but he's got a second chance at it here in race 2. Mandatory pit stop, of course, coming up for these guys as the revs rise and the lights go up. And race 2 is go, go, go. And it's another good initial jump from Corey Shepherd, and this time it's working well for him. Kostecki and Myers together for 3rd and 4th into turn 1. And again, there's contact between the leaders. Corey Shepherd trying his best there. He squeezes Scott to the outside. No opportunity for Scott to get back up the inside. It's covered by Shepherd this time as Kostecki maintains 3rd. And have a look at that there from Wayne Burke. He's trying to have a run at a podium spot there versus Brady Myers, and he is looking for 4th. He has gotten it, and there's already some big dramas for Darren Lobb and Kenneth Latter, among others, as Brett Loxton as well having some trouble at the back of the field. Looks like there was a coming together potentially into turn 3 or 4 as there's a 9.5 Mustang of Ben Morris. Wow, how did they escape that? Cars are going off regardless. Bo Cubis, Blake Delaney, Tyler Blackburn and Aaron Borg among the drivers that were affected by that one. Another chaotic start here for Split 1 in race 2.
Is busy. Oh, Darren Lobb around there on the exit of turn number 9. Down the order he will tumble. Looks like he's gotten away without too much damage, but right down the back now he will be as it's Pereira and Veacock on side by side.
Oh, Kostecki! Kostecki and Shepherd have come together at the penultimate corner. They've both gone off.
Indeed, there we go. There's Kostecki. Corey Shepherd still tumbling down the timing tower. Can I find him? There he is at the background and shot there in the 718. No, I want Shepherd. There he is. He's still having a bushwhack it round the outside of turn 12. Well, how about that for an opening lap? James Scott back in the race lead as a result. And Shepherd now all the way down in 34th place after what's happened there on lap number 1 of 40 in this longer race here tonight. My goodness, right, that is going to need some dissection. Where on earth do we even begin, Reese?
Yeah, where do we even begin, indeed? I think we take a look at that incident between Kostecki and Shepherd, and James Scott was also involved a bit as well. There was some biff and barge going on between our top 2 on the way down to turn 10, and James Scott going into the side of Shepherd on the straight as well. Further. Okay. Yep, so we'll just see here, Kostecki trying to take advantage. There's the contact from Scott and Shepherd, and Kostecki just goes way too deep into the penultimate corner, locks up, and sends Shepherd right off the road. What a horrible night it has been for Corey Shepherd. He's shown great pace, and he should be fighting up the front, but unfortunately, the Biff and Barge has taken him out of contention, and he couldn't quite get back onto the racetrack either because the field was just going by him there. And so it's going to be a big fight back for Shepherd. He'll be hoping for a safety car, and he'll be hoping that the mandatory pit stop will be able to vault him up the order a little bit. So, running order as things stand. James Scott and Wayne Burke are your top two. They're separated by 0.3 of a second. Brady Myers in third place. Brenton Hobson up into fourth. And Ryan Leonage, despite everything, still holding on to fifth place there. We ride on board with Burke, who was pressuring Scott for the win towards the end of race one. And now it's looking like one heck of a fight for the top two, this time very early on.
It does seem to be the case. Maybe a little... we'll see if that's whether it's a case of whether James Scott now a little damage. Obviously does have that side damage to the car. Whether that's a indication of anything more. There is indeed very deep into turn 10 was Burke. Maybe a sign here. We're going to see some early pit stops in this race. Pit window is now open. That we've passed the end of lap 2. They could have come in last time around, and I can tell you that so far everyone is staying out. So no ultra early takers, and that doesn't make sense. You don't want to be really compromising yourself at the back half of the race that aggressively as they come across the line once again here. And don't forget, Brady Myers is just here as well in the number 22 TTR car. And, well, all things considered, you've got this nice little train here that runs basically, well, you can probably go all the way back there to Kurt Stenberg to call it P1 through P8, more or less unbroken there with just 3 seconds and change covering that lot.
Yep. Well, it's an incredibly close fight that's been going on here in the early stages, only on lap 4 of 40, and the pit window has already opened. It opens at the end of lap 2, and it will close at the end of lap 38. So there's plenty to come here tonight. And I've got to say, the racing is going on quite a bit there as Kurt Stenberg is trying his best to make his way further forward. He's back into 8th position now in this race, and he's got behind him one heck of a fight with Thomas Freeman, Chris Coxhead, Matthew Bowler, and the recovering Brody Kostecki. Kostecki trying around the outside of Bowler in turn 10, and it looks like he's gotten that done there in the background, and we'll see how things go here on board with Kostecki as he tries to go up the inside of turn 11. He's going to get it done there on Matthew Bowler and continue to try and work his way back up.
He is indeed. Apologies also for the fact that I forgot to actually switch on the in-game sound there once we transitioned into the race server there. Apparently getting myself all kinds of flustered at various points along the way tonight, but that should now be coming through. So there's V8 engines rumbling and growling along their way. So I just saw a little bit of a headlight flash, I think, from Bowler there as Kostecki went through, but I think I'm toward, unless, again, there are those dots there. He's just lit up on the timing tower, dropping in behind Chaston, and there goes side by side with Chaston there through turns 3 and 4. He's going to try and stick it out around the outside of turn 5, but looks like the 427 will be able to get clear there through the second half of the corner, and then to turn 6 we come here. Although looking inside is Hinsey at 7.
Oh, almost contact between the two of them there, and a little bit of door tapping there as they try to make their way through. And Chastaneuf holding on to it nicely, but he is falling under some massive pressure here from Thomas Hinz. Out of the turn they come, and down the short run to turn 10. Oh dear.
Cameron Jones.
Yeah, looks like, problem for Cameron Jones there on the exit of the hairpins. He's going to try and defend here from Aaron Borg. It's been a pretty chaotic start for Cameron Jones. Started in 30th and now having to scrap over these very minor positions with drivers that are desperately trying to make their way forward. Borg shows the nose, but it's not going to work. Jones will remain in that place for the time being and try to hold on for something.
No, I can't pick him up. I want to pick up Andrew Dyson because look who's in the pit lane.
Oh, yeah.
First of our takers. Let's see here as the time ticks up. Just like in split 2, tyres on, 10 seconds later, away goes the 41, back down the lane. So, very early stop there at the end of lap 5 for number 41. Let's see if that pays off nicely. It does come out, obviously, in nice, clean air. So that does give some advantage at this point in the race. 17 seconds and change. As you see, Kostecki and Coxhead going at it on the timing tower. as they come out of turn number 9 there, and Kostecki ahead. Coxhead is going to have to tuck back in line, so another place for the 999 on the recovery here, up to P10 already.
Yeah, well, a little bit of a blip there for Kostecki, and potentially race control will be checking out that incident that happened between he and Shepherd and Scott. But, well, Brody now trying his best to work his way a bit further forward as we check back from the ERT machine of Matthew Bowler. He's got Jordan Ross up behind him, and Ross has been having a reasonably good race so far. He is trying his best to work his way through, but I think in the midst of all the chaos that has been going on, he's been struggling to keep the position he started in. He is down 3, but at least he is still in the fight, and he was at least able to get a good finish from race 1 tonight. Still plenty to come, as the mandatory pit stops will evidently start coming in thick and fast very shortly, as that was very fast by Jordan Ross into the hairpin. Little tap to Matthew Bowler, but things working out okay for the time being. And now you see Brody Kostecki trying to line up a move on Thomas Freeman up ahead, and we get a very good view of how little light there is hitting the racetrack at the moment. Still pretty cool track temperatures, 23 degrees, and just making up a little bit of time on the brakes is Kostecki. The drivers can afford to push a little harder on the tyres now, because they will have to change them at some point. And have a look at that, Thomas Freeman messing up the exit of the final corner. That's going to allow Brody Kostecki through before they get to the braking zone for turn 1. So Freeman just yielding there, and we'll see what he can do to keep Chris Coxhead behind him. Chris is having a pretty good night as well. Finished very consistently, did the 2:08, and currently running an 11th, 2 spots up from where he started. Another taker for the pits meanwhile, that's Brad Newman, second driver to make a stop, but it looks like that was a drive-through for him, and that was for contact on lap 1. It looks like Brody Kostecki has also received a penalty from race control. That would have been for the contact coming into the penultimate corner.
It was indeed. So, only one driver that takes a good set.
Oh, Coxhead spins!
Okay,
Chris
right.
Coxhead losing bulk places.
Oh, indeed. There we are. Catching up with Coxhead here at turn number 9. And, oh dear, car launches up and over the curb. So, chance to go and try and figure out what's happened to him there, thanks to another replay from Virtual Racing School then. Let's cue this up here. A couple more seconds before that shows up on the screens here. So, looking for the inside of Freeman here at turn 7, Reese. He's going to get a nose there, and then what's going on here through 8 and 9?
Well, Coxhead on the outside line, and it looks like he just picked up the throttle too much. The rear spun up, and around he went, caught the grass as well, which just exacerbated the issue. He was able to get back running, but you see just how harsh those curbs are. Either way, Chris Coxhead was having a good race. Now he is up behind Bo Albert and Cameron Veacock, and those guys are fighting for 18th place at the moment. It's been a better race for Bo Albert this time around. Bo was involved in the issues on lap 1 in race 1, got a penalty and subsequently retired the car, but have a look at that. He has made up so many positions thanks to all the chaos that's been going on around him, up to 19th now, and looking to further work his way forward.
Let's jump on board with him for a second, and this one I'm hoping I get a moment to be able to just sit here and watch as on the back of the 87 he is. Whether there's something that will come of this in the near future, going to the end of lap number 9 of 40 here in this race, and looks like everyone's staying out and continuing on at this point. So Dyson, the odd one out, as no, never mind. Kostecki and Freeman both tumbling down the order, and here comes Albert as well. So make that several drivers, and they've got Coxhead in behind Albert as well. So make that a handful to take us to the lane here, starting with the 999.
Well, the 999 will be serving a drive-through this time around. I believe.
Yes, indeed.
He still has that penalty hanging over his head, so Brody Kostecki, I think that was a fair penalty. He just had no chance of making the corner with how late he braked into turn 11. So out into the running order once again, Kostecki goes, and he is down in 33rd now. So once he takes his mandatory pit stop, it's going to be another big fight up to see if he can get back into the top 10. Certainly capable of it. Meanwhile, out of the pits comes Thomas Freeman with a 10-second stop time, just under 30 seconds through the lane. And, well, now, I'm seeing an issue for Riley Bilson, evidently. Bilson, I think, went for a little spin there. Yeah, he has gotten back going on the way into turn 4, but obviously a bit more to that. I'm wondering if he did that on his own. Very easy to do at Winton with how thick and fast the turns come.
Oh, no, there's been help.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's see from
let's
who.
Try and get... actually, pardon me, let's see it on the replay. No, Kenneth Leonard's gone around all by himself, and unfortunately for Bilson and Aaron Borg there in the background too, both victims of just being in the vicinity. When it all goes down, it has to do drive up the track backwards there for a moment. And, oh boy, oh dear. There's jump back one last time and just jump on board again with so he's out of turns 1 and 2 will come. You can see him behind Bo Cubis here. So it's Latta and Darren Lobb there by the looks of things, and then just bonk.
That's a shame there.
Cameron Jones inside there.
So many nasty surprises when you go around at Winton, and it looked like Latta himself got a bit of help there from Darren Lobb. Latta has had an absolutely torrid race, hasn't he? Was involved in the drama on the first lap and lost his rear wing. As Corey Shepherd has taken his mandatory pit stop, Shepherd re-emerges in 38th place, just ahead of Blake Delaney, who has also taken his mandatory pit stop as well. So leader of the cars that have pitted is currently Thomas Freeman with a 10.6 box time. Once again, having his Twitch channel going there, and be able to catch his perspective over there. Hopefully you stay with us here on SimSpeed TV so you can get the full picture of what's going on in this race. So Brody Kostecki and Brad Newman both taking drive-through penalties. So they still have yet to actually come in to change their tyres. And the gap up the front of the field is remaining pretty consistent. James Scott and Wayne Burke still separated by 0.4 of a second, but Brady Myers is right with them as well. See, there you go. That is your top 3, all in a line there. And James Scott, of course, carrying some damage to the left-hand side from his earlier contact with Corey Shepherd. Bit controversial here at Winton, but it's to be expected.
Yes, it is indeed. Now, I'm curious to see here real quick. Stay on board here with Brady Myers. Bring up our race leader. Here's how things are looking lap time-wise. Indeed, very tight at the front. Gains a 10.5 there on the previous time around, Reese, but otherwise, James Scott keeping these guys nice and honest, and no one really making significant inroads, as that was right on the limit there, getting a bit of gravel from his troubles as Myers off the final turn. Side by side, Burke showing the nose towards turn 1, but nothing of it this time by as they single file, personal file, in there. A couple of corners. It's on further on back as well. This is on board Rehan Lionage. We've got Adam Briggs there in behind at half a second and just ahead of Rehan, though starting to almost break away here. Hobson holding on to P4 there in the 88 machine. Catch back up. It's going to be cork in the bottle for himself, and also Adam Briggs and Rob Gibbs directly behind him here as more drivers taken to the pit lane. Ben Morris and Cameron Jones going to take their service here. As you see, Jones, that looked a little slow or loose in the box there, and it's adding up. 15 seconds versus 10 for basically everyone else, Reese. Unfortunately, that's not going to do him any favours.
No, well, Morris exits the lane, and the number 43 will re-emerge down in 38th spot. He's still got quite a few drivers to try and work his way through if he wants to gain any places out of that one. So, it looks like Jordan Ross has been trying to defend from Matthew Bowler. There was briefly an exchange between the two of them. And have a look at this fight that is going on here. Ross actually getting past Bowler and up into 9th place. And they're going to have to fend off Brian Borg and Sean McNamara as well, who are all fighting around their little section of the racetrack. We look at just behind the Simrix.com DPR car of Darren Long on the headlight flash, trying to distract Tim Mulford, who is up 19 spots himself and has managed to avoid many dramas here. In the first race is Brody Kostecki. Dives up the inside of Darren Lobb. Will he be able to get it done on the way into turn 4? No. That is the rare attempt at a pass from Kostecki that has not worked.
Indeed. The question is maybe, though, is that enable? Kostecki used to detach Lobb from being able to pressure Mulford and focus eyes forward into being eyes backwards. Oh, that's locked! From Kostecki into 7. This time, though, he just pulls it up and avoids further contact there as they both round turn number 8 in short order. And, oh, goodness, that was very dicey for a moment between these two. We'll jump on board with Lobb here for a second. You can see now, got about 2 car lengths back to the 999 as they come into turn number 10 here. But this is incredibly strong, especially through turns 11 and 12 here in race number 1 so far. More news coming through from race control, I see, and we have ourselves another drive-through penalty, this time for the 269 of Kenneth Lasser. It's been issued penalty there. Just to see, because I could have sworn, well, must have not really, well, he didn't go on board with Ladder, so we don't know if it was a Spears thing, but incident involving Ladder, it's been deemed drive-through to CG. And all that here is, again, look how strong the sticky looks. There's going to be a second as well. We can capitalise here. Yet to be seen, little wiggle there on the exit turn 4, but it seems to just stall the momentum for a moment.
Does indeed. Well, as we keep our eye on this fight, there's been more takers to pit lane. Sean McNamara with a stop. There goes Kostecki up the inside of Lobb, and will he be able to get it done into the 3rd of our hairpins? No, won't be able to hold the outside there. A little bit of a lock-up and maybe slight contact. Tries to round him up again. Bit too deep again goes Brody, and gives a little bit of a bump and run potentially to Darren Lobb there, who will try to fight him into turn 10, but to no avail as there's another lock-up from Kostecki. I think these colder track temperatures are really not playing into the hands of Brody. News as well from pit lane. There is Ryan Leonage, who comes in for his mandatory pit stop, and he'll emerge, I think, just outside the top 20. His teammate Dylan Pereira also in the lane as well. Tim Mulford goes by, another part of the Phoenix Racing team. So there goes Rayan out in 21st.
So there's a nice little gap there to work into on these next couple of laps. Just a question of will he get then stuck in the traffic flow here. Brett Loxton, and then that Lobb sticky fight there to Mulford in front of those two still for the time being. As we get back up to speed. His teammate Dylan Pereira also came down onto the lane last time round. You can see slightly longer in the box, but all in all about average on target there, I'd say, for Pereira. 10 seconds stationary, 30 seconds transiting the lane there. And, well, Leonage has also come out leading those who have pitted. Thomas Freeman is just in behind him, probably not in behind him, 8.5 seconds behind him, I should say, apologies. And there's Robbie Gibbs, next driver to the lane, surely in response to Leonage. They were both close on track last time round race. And same for Matt Bowler. Justin Wallace also going to join in the pit party this time by here on lap 16.
Well, we'll see how things go for Ryan Leonage in the context of this battle. Remember, they were just behind him. There goes Leonage past Bowler and Wallace, and yeah, still moves through. So Rayan in the 79 is the leader of the cars that have made a stop. And out comes Robbie Gibbs in number 2, and down in 19th place at the moment. Speaking of Leonage, He is trying to line up Brett Loxton for a move, and fresh tyres for the number 79 should make this a little bit of an easier prospect than usual, but still doesn't change the fact that it's really hard to pass here at Winton. Meanwhile, Kostecki has gotten by Tim Mulford and is up into 14th spot, but still has yet to make his mandatory stop.
Naj also through at turn 7, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw Kostecki go through on the way either out of turn 4 or through turn 5 at one point or another there, but also Leonardo is crucial. So getting through one of the bits of traffic here, so putting some more cars between him and those who have just come out of the pits shortly afterwards. Now a question of, can he continue to make clean progress here as we look for Darren Lobb ahead, thinking about the inside of Tim Mulford, but no dice this time into turn 11, but Mulford will go to the pit lane, so that opens up the road for the 99 to carry on, but slide there through the final turn. Work those tyres a bit harder as a result. Several drivers taking the pits. Sebastian Flock also down the lane this time by Paul Young is in the pits as well, Reese. So plenty of activity here at around the halfway mark. No big surprises there too.
All right, Sebastian Flock re-emerges onto the racetrack, and Corey Shepherd, who pitted early on, will get back up into 23rd place. Still some massive points being lost here for Shepherd tonight thanks to those incidents. Mulford re-emerges as well into 34th place. So the entirety of your top 13 plus Brett Loxton and Riley Bilson have yet to come into the lane for a stop, and Kenneth Latter also hasn't come into the lane yet, though Latter still has that drive-through penalty hanging over his head, so we should see Latter drop off the end of the order very shortly. Leonage, meanwhile, trying to line up Darren Lobb, who is still on the same set of tyres he started the race on, and it doesn't look like there's going to be much chance for Rayhan to go up the inside at turn 11 here. Lobb doing very nicely to hold on to that, and he is continuing to stay out of the pit lane. We are just about at the halfway point of this race, so it looks like drivers like Lobb are going to try and get halfway done here before they pit. Zach Ski just before the halfway point, making his way into the lane out of, I would say, 14th place. All right on board with Ryan Leonage as he tries to find his way past Darren Lobb here to get back into 12th spot and continue his run through as leader of the cars that have pitted. And this could work out well for Rayhan. He pitted earlier than anyone else that he was racing against. In fact, most of the drivers he's raced against have yet to come into the lane. So he could stand to gain quite a bit out of this. Late dive up the inside. It looks like Lobb overshot the hairpin just a little bit, opened the door to the inside, and through goes the number 79.
Nice bit of patience and execution there. And look at this from Lobb, just trying to get back on the bumper and, well, quite frankly, making quite a bit of an error there, to put it mildly, as Wilson is tumbling down the order. Speeds actually being hustled here on track is the, if I look at this here, we've got Pereira, Flock, I possibly believe that Shepherd and Morse that have all gotten through in this period here as well, so quite a scrappy moment here for Riley Wilson, Thomas Hins and Sean McNamara, both on a piece of the play. Okay, first big mover to the pits from the front of the field. No, pardon me, nothing against you, Chastity, but this is what I wanted to pick up here. Jordan Ross brings it in out of P3 and looks to be on target again with the pit stops. Comes out there behind Thomas Freeman and Matt Bowler, who, pardon me, sorry, Jay Ross was down.
He was down in 13th when I last checked on it, so yeah, probably pitting from just outside the top 10.
Know your Sinji cars in statements.
Don't worry, I've seen that issue. Leader in.
That's important. That's something I wanted to pick up. Oh, hello. That looked a bit of a bushwhack on the way in, but James Scott going to bring it in here exactly halfway down the race and split this one in two. So let's see here. We'll stay with the 088, what his pit stop looks like tonight. He's also joined by Brenton Hobson in the lane.
And Cameron Veacock coming in just behind them as well. So we'll see what the box time is for James Scott. 10.4. So that's pretty average from what we've seen. But out he will come, and Rayan Leonage is going to emerge there ahead of James Scott when Scott comes out of the lane. That early undercut for Rayan Leonage has done fantastically. So Rayan Leonage is the effective race leader at the moment.
That he is indeed. Currently P6. And that's very impressive. Like, certainly was somewhat in touch with the leaders when he came into the pits. It's worth adding, but it was still several seconds of margin there before he came in. Although, in saying that, look how racy Scott is. And he knows, or has been made aware of the situation, and I'd certainly like to get on his merry way now that he has the tyre advantage, because he is going to not let up 1 second. Leonage somewhat in the middle of the road there, down towards turn number 10, and it does hold off Scott for a little longer, but you can see on the wide of the apex, maybe a tiny bit vulnerable. Do our other top two come in? No, they haven't. They're staying out for another lap at least. They're going to try and overcut this phase here and hope that the tyre advantage at the end makes a difference. Kostecki has come to the pits, although Kostecki...
Okay.
Talk about another scruffy pit entry there. I might want to have a quick look and see just how bad that was, because that definitely was quite something there.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, so we'll get it on the Virtual Racing School replay here, and Kostecki just getting a bit of oversteer on when he came into the pit entry lane. Watch this. He did make a bit of contact with the tyre barrier as a result of this. He didn't catch the grass. Car was still on the tarmac, but whoop, round it goes. Had to correct it, and a little bit of a tap to the tyre bundle, and he does manage to get things back going again, has to slow right back down again to take his mandatory pit stop, and it looks like he's retired from the race. Kostecki pulled into his box and exited the car. So that's the last we're going to be seeing of Brody Kostecki tonight. Obviously not happy with the way things have gone, as Brady Myers will come in from second. Remember, Myers was running third before James Scott came in. So Rayan Leonage and James Scott, they're still running in that order in third and fourth as Myers comes into the lane, and Leonage is about to cross the start-finish line. At the very least, come out of the final corner. So we'll see how this goes for Myers. 9.2 second stop. He's going to emerge from the pit lane. This is going to be very close between the three of them. Myers with a good stop. James Scott, though, will round him through turn one. So this race is looking incredibly interesting. Can Rayan Leonage hold on this set of tyres and keep these guys, the former leaders, behind him?
This is going to be something to watch here in the next couple of laps, because now look at this. James Scott, he really had to throw it into turn one to hang on ahead of Brady Myers, and as a result, that's given Leonage here just this little lap, half a lap I reckon, just to compose himself. As look at Myers to the inside of Scott. They're going to contact front to rear. Both drivers hang on here, but now they're door bagging through 7 and 8 as Scott's not too impressed by that and will happily run Myers out to the edge of the track here. And Myers wanted back through, but he's not got an option there. And as a result, 1 second the margin now between Leonage and Scott here. He's just been given a free kick for at least the next lap or two, the way these guys are going here, to hang on to his spot.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the best decision by Myers to try and go for the move there. He wants to be ahead of James Scott, but I think he might be unaware that Rayan Leonage has already pitted. These guys are just losing touch with the effective race lead at the moment. The only cars left to pit now are Wayne Burke in the lead, Robert Gibbs, Darren Lobb, who has just come into the lane actually himself. So that only leaves now Brad Newman, aside from Wayne Burke, the only drivers yet to make their mandatory pit stop. In comes Lobb, and we'll see where he emerges as everyone goes by. Hinds, McNamara, Pereira, Flock and Wallace all making their way through there. Corey Shepherd back up into 15th place meanwhile, if you're keeping tabs on the 718. As we ride back on board with Brady Myers as he tries to find his way past Wayne Burke. These guys battling each other incredibly hard, but they can't afford to do that. They are going to be losing touch with Leonage. And I got to say, Rayan in the 79, pitting as early as he did, his tyres are 5 laps older than Scott, 7 laps older than Myers. They they have given him, as you said, Dan, a free kick here.
It is very impressive to see how well this is going for Leonage at this point, but it looks to me now that Scott and Myers have called a truce for the time being. They're willing to get back to the task of chasing down that Phoenix Racing 79 machine. Wayne Burke is still going, though, at the front of the field. He has not yet come to the pit lane, so the race leader here really going to test the overcut potential here tonight. I can tell you that right now, he's losing at least 0.3 of a second a lap to Leonage in the part, at least in the last couple in particular. I should add, as oh hello, look who's through.
Oh yeah, James Scott has actually faced some issues there. He's fallen behind Hobson as well. That looks like there might have been a bit of contact potentially between Myers and Scott.
Yeah,
We'll have to get another view.
Fact.
Yeah, let's make sure on that fact. I don't want to speak too soon.
Yep, you are on the money, Reese. Have a look at this here on the run up to turn number 3.
All right, so Myers goes to the inside of Scott and tries to dive to the inside. Scott tries to cover him and turn in early, but oh dear, yeah. A little bit of a bump and run there. Myers gets through on Scott, and Brenton Hobson goes, oh, okay, mate, I guess I'll try and find my way through as well. And Scott actually gets on the brakes pretty heavily there. I think he was yielding to Hobson to say, look, mate, that's just happened to me. Try and get Myers out of the way. As Wayne Burke has come in for his mandatory pit stop, Rayan Leonage will move through into the race lead, and he leads by 3/4 of a second over Brady Myers, who is starting to fall under pressure now from the freshly pitted Wayne Burke. Wayne Burke has actually done quite well there over that first stint to hold on to as much track position as he has. He'll be right behind Myers here, and they'll be fighting for second place. As it stands, with tyres that are 3 laps younger, Wayne Burke still has a lot to play with here.
He does. We've seen he's been quite strong in some of these shorter sprint races that have this compulsory stop element in them this season. Coming on strong in particular, of course, into Lagos when we first talked to him as a race winner in 2022. So, yeah, we'll see here what those 3 laps on the tyres does. Is it all eyes on what they can do here to catch up to your current race leader, who really has ticked all the boxes when it comes to getting himself in prime position here so far tonight. But just to say, I can see, you can look here at who's generally speaking in the top 5. We haven't talked much about Brenton Hobson, as you said, now up into P4, thanks to Scott needing a moment, it seems, to sort of hit the reset button before he goes again to catch up to Myers and Burke. Or, well, we'll talk about the others in the top 5 or so later on, because here we go. Wayne Burke really starting to turn the screws here for that P2 place, Reese.
Yep. Myers defended into turn 1, and they were incredibly close, actually rubbing bumpers, and it looks like Myers lost a bit of momentum there on the exit of 4. That has checked up Burke in turn, and that is just giving Rayan Leonage all the advantage in the world. Leonage now leads by 1.5 seconds as it's defensive again from Myers into the first of our hairpins. Can Burke slide his way up the inside on exit, get the outside for the second of our hairpins, which becomes the inside? They make contact, and forced wide there is Brady Myers. A big bump there from Wayne Burke, and that allows Brenton Hobson through as well. 2 Synergy cars onto the podium, and Myers is slowing.
He's going to drop back in behind James Scott there, so both those drivers willing to take a short-term loss there. And they're going to go again at some point, you would think. And just a chance to have a quick look here at Robbie Gibbs, currently holding on to P6, but Adam Briggs has been really sitting on his gearbox for the past little while and looking to try and add another Synergy racing car into said top 6. Exceptions to that Synergy domination will indeed be, of course, Leonage and Brady Myers as Briggs looking for the inside of turn 1, but it's not going to come this time by least here. Start lap 28 of 40. As there we go. Myers and Scott again, side by side at 3.
Oh, they keep it clean for the time being. It's been a bit of a bumper cars race between these two. Well, actually, not really between them, but with some other drivers as well. So let's just see how it works out between the two of them, because they are on the back foot now after the strategy attempting the overcut. Briggs, meanwhile, gets by Robert Gibbs on the way into turn 7 and has managed to complete that move conclusively. So let's see what Briggs can do now to try and catch up to Scott and Myers, who lost a lot of time on the previous lap. And Briggs, of course, with 7-lap-old tyres, round about the same tyre age as Scott and Myers, but he's evidently getting quite a bit out of them.
Yeah, he is. Obviously, of course, the dueling back and forth between Myers and Scott in particular obviously will be slowing them down quite a bit as we come across the line and see their lap times once again. And they've set back into the low 120s at this stage, but that is still slower than Rehan Lienage. The fastest driver, though, on the track by quite some margin. Actually, just bring up this one here. And, let's hope this is... I'll just click that to make sure. There you go. How about that there from Wayne Burke versus Lienage? And, well, unfortunately for Rehan, either he's going to have to find some magic here or just have a very good defense to hold back Wayne Burke, if that's what we've got in store for us here from the 89.
Indeed, it's 0.7 of a second between them at the moment, and Burke definitely has the pace advantage. He has the youngest tyres in the field, does Wayne Burke, only 4 laps old when they cross the line. Rehan Lienage, meanwhile, will be coming up to the end of the 14th lap on this set, and we've seen how big the drop-off is. You know, the tyre drop-off in terms of pace has always been huge in these cars, but it is exacerbated at Winton as it's deep into the final corner for Wayne Burke. Can he line it up on the exit? Lienage gets a slightly better run out of the corner as the sun is pretty much gone here at Winton. We are racing almost in the dark. Lienage trying desperately to hold on to the race lead here after that brilliant strategy call to undercut everyone else in the lead. Really gained a ton of time as a result, but Burke is now on his bumper. It looks like Brady Myers has passed James Scott for 4th now, my apologies. They're still trading places though, because Scott back up the inside of Myers. They are losing bulk time to the podium here, and it looks like neither of them will finish on it at this stage. The battle continues to go on for the race lead though. Wayne Burke is trying some alternate lines here to try and get past Rehan Lienage.
Working the rear end of the 79 over here. This is one of the tests of a young driver's SCOPS campaign here. Can you hold off a skilled veteran such as Wayne Burke? The answer is it's going to be a very hard ask here as Burkey deep on the brakes into turn 10, forcing the narrow entry from the 79 here as we come up to turn 11 and 12. Narrow on the way in. This is the over-under chance there. Tries for it initially, does get the rear of the 79, but Lienage unfortunately does not have an answer there. And new race leader, race leader once again, Wayne Burke, back in front. Now it's Lienage's chance to show, can he hang on here in this phase of the race with the older tyres and see what's left to be done in this one. As further on back, these two cannot let go of each other.
No, they cannot. James Scott and Brady Myers have been throwing punches at each other pretty much all race here, and it's given the big advantage to the Briggs-Gibbs duo, who have caught them up now. Let's see what Myers can do on the way into the hairpins here. Does he dive up the inside? Nah, not enough space, and a bit of a lock-up, maybe a little tap to the rear of James Scott. And there is Adam Briggs saying, hello guys, I'm here now, and I'm looking to make myself a factor in this fight.
Trying to get the power down. Problem for Myers there. Well, not problem per se, but not the best traction down there out of turn 9. So he will lose a little bit of time there as they work their way off of turn number 10. And I think, unfortunately, when it comes down to seeing the fight at the front of the field, you can see over on the left of screen the gap already up into the high 7, 8, 9, 10th bracket range. And I think realistically for Lienage, this is going to be now a race of conserving P2 from Brenton Hobson, if anything is to go by. I don't think he's going to be under threat here, well, to drop off the podium per se, because can see here, gap from James Scott to Brenton Hobson, 3.5 seconds. Brady Myers still need to find every possible option here to get back to at least P4 to wrap things up, despite the continued pressure there by Adam Briggs. Robert Gibbs is coming into the picture. Kurt Stenberg is coming into the picture as well, who Stenny quietly working his way up the field tonight. 3 places gained. Puts himself inside the top 10 once again here in race number 2. So certainly gelling very nicely with this car and Winton as well.
Indeed, this is the first time V8SCOPS has visited Winton since it was added to the iRacing service earlier on in the year. It's a track that people have been clamouring for some time in this area of the world, so really good to see that we can have some Australian touring car racing around yet another Australian track. And don't forget, we've got Sandown coming up for the next round as well. Oh man, 2 years ago, you would have laughed in my face if I'd said that, but amazingly, there's been a lot of love shown for this area of the globe from iRacing. We've also got Pukekohe Park coming up potentially for iRacing content in the next year or two, thanks to the magnificent efforts of James Anderson in New Zealand. So Pukekohe, before it closes for racing next year, will be preserved in digital form. Myers on the back of Scott for 4th. It's defensive again from the 088. Early on the brakes, Myers says, okay, outside line for me. Scott says, no thanks, mate. I'm going to push you out and potentially allow Adam Briggs through. Oh, goodness me. This fight is just incredible as Briggs tries his best to find his way out the inside of turn 5. Doesn't work out for him. What's Myers going to do here?
Nudge.
Yep, nudge on the way into the hairpins and a lock up from Scott and another bump from Myers. God, it is proper dodgems, isn't it?
Well, touring car racing at its peak, your bumpers are most certainly tools to be used to help make passes possible if the driver ahead is being a bit obstinate, you might say here. As while this has all been happening, we've crossed into the final quarter of the race. 8 to go, it was 7 to go when these drivers hit the start-finish line once again. And yeah, well, unfortunately, looks like the fight for P3 is going to become a reality here. Brenton Hobson has been reeling in Leonage several tenths per lap and making another 3 on that last lap alone. As Leonage, I think, unfortunately starting to feel the burn, as it were, with that undercut attempt here. Hasn't really been given sort of a lifeline by virtue of, say, a safety car to give the tyres a breather in this back half of the race. But look, all things considered, odds on, definitely P3s. Briggs and Myers have come together somewhere. And indeed, there we go, turns 3 and 4. It allows Gibbs through. Stenberg trying around the outside of 5. This is going to be a long way through for Stenny. If he can manage it, he does. Wow, Briggs is going to look to the inside immediately though, Reese.
Yep, that he does, and Stenny will try and hold the inside for this next corner. He certainly will, but I think Briggs is going to have the advantage here. He's got the inside for turn 9. What can Stenny do to hold it? Wow, I don't think I've seen anyone try to hold the outside of the hairpin like that, and Briggs unfortunately slowing down a bit there and allowing Myers back through. Oh man, this fight for 4th has been absolutely incredible. But now, we've got Kurt Stenberg knocking on the door of a top 5 place. We're going to watch that back and see what happened here. So again, it was James Scott and Brady Myers battling hard. Adam Briggs thinks, okay guys, that's it. I am going up the inside of Brady here, but they make contact. Yeah, contact through turn 4, locking the rears, and both of them losing out there. And of course, Kurt Stenberg right there to take advantage, as was ERT's newest signing, Robbie Gibbs. And I mean, it was a sterling attempt here by Briggs to try and hold on, but to no avail. And further to your point about the battle between Leonage and Hobson, I think Rayhan will have learnt a little bit here, because you know, I didn't want to mention it at the time, but in his defense of Wayne Burke, Leonage, I think, gave a little bit too much space to Burke when he was defending. He could have afforded to widen the entry into the penultimate corner a little, but he stayed almost hard right to the right side of the racetrack. Maybe he'll be a little bit more aggressive in his defense here versus Hobson.
Well, we'll see how things play. Gap between them, 7 tenths of a second. In fact, I really should use the thing here.
Use the thing.
That one there.
That thing.
That one we haven't used all night long, and here we are with 5 to go. Actually remembering that we do have this lovely little relative box that we can use to bring up just a couple of cars in the course of this race. And how about that? We've got traffic on the road ahead of Leonage. Brad Newman's come back down the lane, I believe, of Reason. Indeed he has. And yeah, so has dropped now to P34, but now sitting in between first and second on the road. Fresh tyres means he might even get a chance to scoot on by your race leader and get back to the lead lap of things here.
I believe Newman actually had just taken his mandatory pit stop. Remember that he had a drive-through penalty early on that he did serve, so he's left it until almost the very end to take his mandatory stop. He'll have fresh tyres now and a little bit of pace advantage, so regardless of pace difference between he and Leonage, I think it's going to be hard for Leonage to get by him. As we check back again to the fight for fifth now, looks like James Scott has managed to jet away from this fight, and Robbie Gibbs now having to face off against Brady Myers.
Indeed, here we are. Here's the group. As Myers wants back on through, has already just cleared a teammate Kurt Stenberg. Now, size up, I should say. Number 2 of Gibbs sometime soon. 4 to go here for these drivers as they come across the line and head into turns 1 and 2. Just the question of who's going to be the most aggressive here. As come up out of 2, Myers looking, but the door is not open. He's not alongside to make that one stick there. So another corner it will have to be as they make their way to turn 5 here.
Myers just hinting at attempting a move on Robbie Gibbs into the hairpin and middle of the road almost for Gibbs there, just to try and keep Myers behind him. This would be a great finish for Gibbs, you know, only recently joining up with the RT, and would certainly be putting a good mark on his record by finishing in the top 5 here at Winton. And Myers, well, he's been trying desperately to hold on to every point he can to preserve that championship lead. It hasn't worked out too well for him this time around. Will he go up the inside of Gibbs here at the penultimate corner? He has a look and slides up the inside at the apex. Gibbs sees him coming and will give him that space. And there we go. Brady Myers back through into 5th. Now the question is, will Gibbs be able to hold off Kurt Stenberg, who's just behind him here? They've still got Adam Briggs in that fight as well. Briggs will try to recover and make his way back through, but it's going to be tough.
It is indeed. As you look at this already, Stenberg on the rear of Gibbs, who's already lost about a car's length to the 22. Now, 2 and a bit laps to go here for these guys. Realistically, I don't see Brady Myers catching James Scott again for one final stoush to continue the saga that has been in this race. It looks like there's some activity further on back. Pardon there not being a chance to really catch it, but here we go. Brian Borg, Corey Shepherd, both formerly of Premier Racing Team. There you go. The 017, Borgie trying to hang it around the outside of 6 into 7, has been bumped and out wide into the weeds. Here rejoins down in 17th place. Sebastian Flock would like that spot here into turn 9, so make that 18th for the 017. I would presume. We'll see here what the exit's like. Flock knows ahead, but now inside for Borgie at turn 10 should be able to take that place back here. Indeed, we'll stay ahead here at this corner. So there we go. Bit of drama there. Let's see if we can pick up just how that unfolded. Yeah, apologies, that's the wrong one. Let's try this one. Oh wait, that won't do it. Just switches back to the one. Hit the replay button and get to it. So yeah, just a case of side by side, I think, there through turn 5, and yeah, Shepherd's over the curbs, almost scrapes the centre of the car, and yeah,
just spat himself out into Borgie. That's a little bit awkward there. Corey Shepherd recently leaving Premier Racing Team, of which Brian Borg is one of the foremost members. And and then, well, Flock and Co were there to take advantage. We should flick back to the battle for second because Rayan Leonage has now come up on Brad Newman, and Newman jumps out of the way promptly, but that has cost Leonage a little bit of time to Brenton Hobson, sorry. Hobson was again 3/10 quicker than Leonage on the last lap, but it seems that his efforts have been stalled a little bit. Remember, there is only one lap to go now as Wayne Burke takes the white flag. It's going to be all on Rayan Leonage to hold on for second here.
There's your lap time differences back and forth between the two of them. Let's see what we get here with one final circuit around Winton here. And there we go, updated times there. Yeah, quite a bit of time lost in the past 2 laps in particular, but all eyes here on second as they round turns 3 and 4. So far, so good for Leonage. Keeps a couple of car lengths in between him and Hobson. Does this car have any vulnerability in it in the final lap here as they make their way up to turn 7? Closing under brakes is going to be Hobson. Gets it down to about 3-4 tenths, but just enough, I think, for Leonage to hang on here at turn 9. He will have to cover. Hobson does show the nose. Leonage able to cover that one off enough. Traction good. Also off turn 9, Reese. I think he might just have this one here, as with just 2 braking zones left in the lap.
Indeed, and it's only one for Wayne Burke, who is rounding the last couple of corners now. And a little bit of weaving there between Leonage and Hobson, but we have to give a big shout out to the number 89 Wayne Burke. Very well executed strategy. He will take the win in race 2 at Winton. But my personal driver of the night, Rayan Leonage, in the number 79, is going to finish second ahead of Brenton Hobson with a masterful strategy call.
Indeed, he does. There's your top 5. And then just in behind here, oh my goodness, there Robbie Gibbs just hangs on to P6 ahead of a very hard charging Kurt Stenberg as they come across the line here now. Look for, oh, Andrew Dyson, slow on the final lap. It's going to drop in behind Cameron Veacock, lost a whole bunch of spots there in doing so, so possible issues there at the end of it all as drivers continue to make their way across the line here. Paul Youngson to finish there in 20th place, one of our bigger movers, although it looks like biggest mover tonight. Indeed, James Chastaneff up into the 20 from 3rd last on the grid tonight. As has Dyson run out of fuel?
He might have.
That's a silent car, yes. Remember, he came in on lap number 2. And last couple of cars going to make their way across the line. It's going to be almost a drag race between Zach Ski and Cameron Jones. Gaps closing, but Jones will hang on there to finish 31st there tonight, and that will just about do it indeed. There we go. All our finishers make their way across the line. So there you have it, folks. That was a busy one to the end, but as we said, indeed, great work there from Rayan Leonage to hang on to P2, I should say. Wayne Burke, though, takes the spoils with the win tonight in the second race. Brenton Hobson there finishing in 3rd tonight. James Scott is able to stay in 4th, but really a case of what could have been their race if he hadn't, well, him and Brady Myers both hadn't got so invested into fighting each other here tonight. Could have easily been top of the podiums for both of them, potentially. Robert Gibbs there holds on. A 10.5 was all it was at the line to Kurt Stenberg. That was certainly close between those two there. Adam Briggs not far back either there in P number 8. And then Matthew Bowler and Thomas Freeman next across the line there in 9th and 10th respectively.
Coming home in 11th spot was Jordan Ross, with Corey Shepherd recovering back to 12th after getting unceremoniously dumped off the track on lap 1. Chris Coxhead will finish lucky 13th, with Justin Wallace and Dylan Pereira coming home 14th and 15th. A very consistent result there for Phoenix Racing Team. Brian Borg had a late coming together with Corey Shepherd. He'll have to settle for 16th spot. Sebastian Flock not quite able to make it work on him there. Thomas Hins comes home in 18th. That's a pair of top 20 finishes tonight for our Split 1 winner. And James Chastaneff and Paul Young will round out the top 20 there in the EMU Sim Racing cars.
21st in race 2 goes to Shaw McNamara there for 9.5. Sim Sports just ahead of Blake Delaney there in the next of our Fishy Motorsports entries. Cameron Veacock in 23rd comes home ahead of Damien Johnson there in 24th. Andrew Dyson with, well, what we suspect there was running out of fuel on the last lap. A bit of a mistake there from the 41. We'll have to settle for that spot. Ahead of Tyler Blackburn in 26th and Brett Loxton in 27th. Ben Morris there finishes next to our 95 cars in 28th, ahead of Darren Lobb in 29th, and Tim Mulford to round out your top 30 there tonight in the third of our Phoenix Racing cars.
Zach Ski managed to come home just behind him there in 31st, with David Kirby making up 9 spots to finish in 32nd. And our last finisher on the lead lap was Cameron Jones. Brad Newman comes home in 31st, 1 lap down, and then it's a sorry story of retirements from many drivers here tonight. Bo Cubis 15 laps short, Brody Kostecki and Riley Bilson retiring from the race 20 laps short. We saw Kenneth Ladder out early on, as with Bo Albert, and Aaron Borg and Jamie Dyke. They did not have a good run at all. Very unfortunate stuff for those guys. Fortunately, though, despite the tight nature of Winton, we didn't see Nick Parker out there in the Logitech G safety car tonight. Well, here we go then. It is driver interview time, and I think we should work in reverse podium order here. First off, we're going to talk to Brenton Hobson, who finished in 3rd. Excellent stuff from you tonight, Hobbo. Winton certainly smiling on you, but it was tough out there, wasn't it?
Oh, no kidding, Race. It's a punchy little track. It's hard work. You don't get much of a break around here.
Absolutely not. Well, race 2 with the mandatory pit stop, you were one of the drivers that decided to take the pit stop a little later, and you were battling hard with Rayan Leonage towards the end, but was it just a case of the tyres running out of grip towards the end?
Yeah, look, it's a super tough track to pass on, so track position's probably the thing you want to fight for the most, and I wasn't really sure that the early stop would work. I thought he might have landed himself in a little bit of traffic back there, and it might have ended up being a bit of an easier battle for me in the end, but turned out not to be. He did a great job, and even on those older tyres in that second half of the race there, he did an awesome job to stay in front. Another few laps I might have been able to have a crack, but he did an awesome job to hang on there and get a very well-deserved P2.
Indeed, not going to argue with that. Well, 5th and a 3rd for you tonight coming out of Winton, Hobbo, and it's a pretty good result for you towards the end of the season. Synergy has been having a really strong second half of the year. How do you think Sandown's going to go for you guys?
Oh, fingers crossed the momentum keeps going. I mean, we've got plenty of fast drivers. We've got a really good team mentality going at the minute, and everyone's working together, and the results are showing. You know, we're very competitive every week, and in the supercar and in any different stuff that we race in. So, yeah, fingers crossed we can rock up at Sandown, keep it going. I know that the title fight's pretty close at the front, so try and keep ourselves in the battle and hope that we come up trumps.
Indeed. Well, anyone you'd like to thank for your results tonight, Brenton, before we let you go?
Well, obviously, for a few people for falling off the road and giving me a good result for a change, that helped. But obviously, like I've already touched on there, the team, I mean, it's an awesome team environment. We've got heaps of good people there, and they're a pleasure to drive with and work with each week. So shout out to all the guys in the team. And, of course, all the sponsors, Wave Runner Performance Centre, Smith & Sons, JK Signs, DGD Custom, all of them that help make the wheels go round. We appreciate it all. And, of course, to the league admins, all the guys behind the scenes, and you guys for the broadcast.
Thanks very much for joining us. Brenton Hobson, Hobbo88, coming home with a podium here tonight. Next up, we have the man of the hour, 2nd place in race 2 for the youngest driver in the field. Rayan Leonage joins us here. Well, Rayan, that was an absolutely fantastic race 2 from you. All came down to that early pit stop to get the undercut on all the leaders.
Yeah, it was tricky at the end with the tyres getting a bit older. Felt a little bit of less grip, but had good fun, and just played the strategy call right there. Managed to mostly get out of traffic.
Yeah, indeed. I think Winton is a track where that kind of strategy really works well. It's such a tight circuit, this one. It's almost like a kart track in these cars, isn't it?
Yeah, like I was thinking when Burke was coming, there's not very much space for him to get past me, but if I make a tiny bit of a mistake, he'll get past me. And that's what happened. just had a little bit of an inside lock, and he got the better of it.
Yeah, well, regardless, I think you should still be very proud of that result there. This is only your first season of V8SCOPS competition, and I suppose this is really the sign that you're on the scene here in this championship. You're looking forward to Sandown, obviously. How do you think you're going to go there?
I don't know. Sandown's not too hard to find some pace, so might drop me down a little bit with some of the freakishly fast guys. But looking forward to it.
Well, this is your first time in the interview booth with us, Rayan, and I suppose now is a good time to leave you the floor to thank all your sponsors and supporters there at Phoenix Racing Team.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Melbourne Hydrographic Stepper, Track Racer, Simcore, Aramex Heatherton, LAL Photography, and I'd like to thank my dad for crew chiefing for me, and the team having their debut, Tim and Dylan. And yeah, just like to thank everyone for help on the way.
Excellent stuff there from Rayan Leonage in the number 79. What a fantastic result, a proper feel-good result there for the young man there. And now we move on to our winner of race 2, Wayne Burke. Excellent job from you, Wayne, to make the overcut work there.
Yeah, for sure. I can't knock the setup enough. Like the Synergy Sim Racing guys did an awesome job this week on the set. And yeah, I just thought I'd make the overcut work, with especially with a bit of traffic on the exit. So yeah, the overcut really worked well for me.
That it did, and I mean, you know, a 6th place start in race 2 certainly meant that you were involved in an awful lot of the dramas up at the front, but regardless, it seems in both races tonight you managed to convert a top 5 into a podium. So what do you think the secret was to that? Just staying out of trouble?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think I missed 2 first lap crashes in both races, so just I suppose at the right spot at the right time, kept the nose clean, and then just we had really good long run pace, which made the difference, I think, in the end.
And what do you think went into that long run pace? Because Winton is known in the real world and now in the sim world as a track that is very tough on tyres, in cars where there's a big pace drop off in tyres. So you guys at Synergy obviously put a lot of work into making sure the tyres lasted.
Yeah, exactly. Just certain things with a bit of driving style, especially through the boob section. It was all about looking after the rear tyres, basically. And that made a difference even at the end of race 1. Almost, I think I caught 3 seconds on James in the last 10 laps or something. So, yeah, it was just all about looking after those rear tyres.
Well, look after the rear tyres you did, and you have another race victory on the record for you, and definitely should be proud of that one, Wayne. Hopefully we get another chance to talk to you at Sandown, but before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank for your victory?
Just like to thank the Synergy guys again, and our sponsors, JK Signs, Eaton Electrical, Aftershock PC and Newline.
Thanks very much for joining us there, Mr. Berkey in the number 89. That is another victory on the tally for Wayne, and that is another race weekend in the books for Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS. Dan, as the clouds move in over Winton and the sun sets, what a night of racing that was. Fantastic racing and some fantastic results as well.
It's been really good to watch for the most part tonight. In all 3 races, both splits. I shared obviously a bit of controversy here and there along the way, but I think if I was going to be brutally honest, it's the kind of track that does kind of lend itself to a bit of that, so not too shocking, all things considered. And indeed, it is now time to turn our attention to what comes next. We're sort of on this sort of little Australian mini tour, as it were. We just broke it up with the Imola 500 as part of the Endurance Cup campaign because, well, yeah, here's what's coming up next. Following on from Bathurst, following on from Winton here tonight, it'll be time for the Too Easy Finance Sandown Split Sprint. 2 races of 125 kilometres each coming your way on Sunday the 6th of November. And that'll be, of course, from 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And we'll get to see Super Split 2 also, of course, out on track with their own 125-kilometre race to get things underway as part of that one. And then, of course, on top of that, we'll have the Logitech G V8SCOPS supports on the Friday night, with the V8s and 2-litre Tourers returning once again for their penultimate rounds of support category action as well, to make it another weekend of action here on SimSpeed for the event and category as a whole here once again.
Absolutely. We can't wait for that to come around, and we hope that you all can't either. Thanks very much for joining us all around the world on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, all our various social platforms. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at SimSpeedTV, and don't forget to subscribe as well on YouTube so you don't miss another broadcast here on SimSpeed TV. Virtual Racing School and Too Easy Finance, we want to give a big thanks to them for their support of this series, and to the admin team for putting everything together at Oceanic Sim Racing. I'm Reese Gardner, Dan Yeaman with me in the box and directing behind the scenes. From all of us here at SimSpeed, bye for now, but certainly not forever.